My name is Kate Stith, and I'm with the Connecticut Bar Foundation, conducting an interview for our oral history project about women in the Connecticut Bar. And I'm pleased to have with me today one of the subjects of our study. And I'm going to ask you to tell us your name to begin.
My name is Antoinette Dupont. Most people call me Billy.
And I'll call you Judge.
Okay.
Judge Dupont, tell us first where you were born.
I was born in New York City. At the time, my father was a student at Fordham University, so that our home, his home, was New London, Connecticut. But because he was attending university in New York, I was born in New York.
And when were you born?
January 10th, 1929.
Did you grow up in New York City or move back?
No, I grew up in New London, Connecticut.
What was your father studying at Fordham?
Pharmacy. He's a pharmacist.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 younger brothers and no sisters.
And what did your mother do?
My mother was a secretary to a Broadway producer when she married my father.
So you grew up in New London, Connecticut with 2 younger brothers.
Yes.
And what schools did you go to?
I went to the public schools in New London, and I graduated from a school called Williams Memorial Institute, which is an all-girls high school, also in New London.
A private school?
In those days, it was semi-private. Today, it's private, and it's located on the Connecticut College campus. It was a school for young women who are interested in a classical kind of education.
And how did your parents decide to send you for a classical education? Tell us a little bit about them.
Okay. College was very important. My great-grandparents came from Italy. My grandparents, most of these people I knew growing up. My grandparents were very interested in education. My father was one of 6 children, and all of them had college degrees, one with a PhD, 2 medical degrees. My father was a pharmacist. Education was very important. It was always assumed that I would go to college.
What is your family last name, your maiden name?
Loiacono, which is a very difficult Italian name to say or to spell. It has 8 letters, 5 of which are vowels. It's a very common name in Italy and a very uncommon name in the United States.
So you went to high school in New London, and what did you do next?
I went to Brown University, where an aunt and an uncle had both gone, and it was a school I always wanted to go to. In fact, it was the only college I applied to. I don't know what I thought I would do if I didn't get in, but luckily I did.
At that time, was Brown University coeducational?
Yes. You got a degree from Brown. There was something called Pembroke College in Brown University, but the classes were co-ed, but there were 2 separate campuses and a separate dean for the college, but the degree was always from Brown. In fact, when my aunt had gone to Brown, they had recently decided that the women wanted an identity of their own, and so they decided to call themselves Pembroke College. So within her lifetime, she saw the school go from wanting an identity of their own for women to women wanting to be just part of the group known as Brown.
So you were at Pembroke College at a time when the women wanted to have a separate identity.
Yes.
And you had gone to an all-female high school.
Yes.
What do you think about all women or all-female education versus co-education?
Well, having gone to an all-girls high school, I was not going to go to an all-girls school, and Brown was just perfect as far as I was concerned, because you had co-ed classes, but yet you had an identity of your own.
And I take it the dormitories were?
The dormitories were not co-ed. There were very strict rules, and as I remember, you could stay out on a Saturday night till 1 o'clock, and you had a given number of what you called lates, that you could stay out past 10 o'clock, it was very rigorously enforced.
What did you major in college?
Political science.
Any particular aspects of political science that you pursued?
No, I don't think so.
And after college?
Then I went to law school.
Now tell us how you made the decision to go to law school.
Well, when I was between my first and second year at Brown, I was part of a group called Students in Government, which went to Washington and got jobs on their own, but they had lectures and so forth provided for them, and it was then that I decided that I wanted to go to law school. It was a very exciting summer. It was the summer of 1948 when Truman had called a special session of Congress, and so we had an opportunity, the students who were there and I, and there were about 80 of us, to see many of the members of Congress and to actually go to sessions. And the job I happened to get was with the Smithsonian Institution, and it was a great job and a great summer.
Were there other women applying to law school from Brown at the time?
None that I know of, no. As I recall it, the day I took the LSATs, I was the only woman taking them. It was held on the Brown campus, which was the center for the law school aptitude exam for all of Rhode Island, and I don't think there was another woman in there.
Were there any members of the legal profession in your family?
No. I never knew another woman lawyer before I went to law school. Everyone in my family was either a pharmacist or a doctor. No one was a lawyer.
And you obviously had an interest in government and in policy. Did you have an interest in politics?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I have an interest in politics in the sense that I'm interested in it, but not necessarily to run for office myself, although I did run for the Board of Education in New London and won, and that was a great experience too.
And I hope we can talk about that when we get up to that part of your life. Now, you only applied to one college. Did you only apply to one law school?
No, I applied to Columbia and got in too, but I wanted to go to Harvard.
So you went to Harvard Law School.
Yes.
And what did your family think of that?
Wonderful. One of my uncles had gone to Harvard Medical School, and my grandfather, when he came to my graduation from the law school, said, I thought he'd be really impressed. And he said, oh, I've been here before.
Right.
My son already did this.
That's great. Were there teachers at Brown who were supportive of you? Were there teachers who were not supportive? Do you remember?
I don't recall having any discussions with any of my professors about going to law school.
You just decided to do it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, and you arrived at Harvard Law School. Tell us when that was.
It was 1951.
And Harvard Law School had been co-ed for how long?
1 year.
So you were in the second class of
Yes.
women admitted to Harvard?
Yes. And of course they had no dormitories for women. They did for men. So the first thing I had to do was find a place to live.
And where did you live?
I found an apartment on Mass Avenue, which is near the law school campus.
About how many other women were in your class?
I think we started out with about 19 women out of a class of 525 or thereabouts.
And how many women were in the class when you graduated?
About 10.
And had the proportion of men gone down that much, almost 50%?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Some of the women left to get married or pursue other things. I don't even know if any of them actually failed out. I think they just drifted off.
What was it like being at Harvard Law School in the second year of coeducation?
Actually, I loved every minute of it. For me, law school was a very enjoyable experience. The dean, Erwin Griswold, was especially solicitous, I think, of the women, and each year had all of the women to come to his home for dinner. And because it was such a small group, we could easily do that. And he and his wife, Harriet, were very kind to the women, and I think made us feel very comfortable. So in retrospect, I can think of experiences that were less than great, but at the time, maybe my consciousness wasn't raised enough, but I didn't feel insulted, and I didn't feel like an outcast.
Well, law school sometimes is not enjoyable for men or women.
That's true too, but I liked it.
And tell us why you liked it.
To me, it's like a gigantic puzzle solving. I love to do crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles, and to me, cases are like gigantic puzzles, and how do they all fit together, and how do the pieces go, and how precedent fits in so that you make some sense out of facts and some sense out of black law and make it into a molded opinion, or make it into a molded final answer.
Did you sense this enthusiasm among other classmates, or would you say towards the top end?
No, I think other people were enthusiastic. One of the good things I found about Harvard was I belonged to a small study group, and many of us are still friends to this day. And we got together several times a week and talked about law and the questions that had come up in the classroom. And I think that they had the same kind of excited feeling about things as I did.
Are there some names in this study group of people you say you're still friends with that
Yes.
you'd like to share?
Sure. A lot of them are women who practice law. Incidentally, one of the things I did hear when I was in law school all the time was the women will just go off and get married and never use their law school education.
Who said that?
Other men in the class. And professors sometimes said it informally. Not as part of their lecture, but I had heard people say this. And the women and I think is kind of fun to this day that we all eventually practiced law, every single one of us, and many of the men did not.
And who are these other women?
One is named Ruth Dreyfus. She practiced law in Stanford for a long time, lives in New York City. Another is named Peggy Walsh, and she practices law in Boston. Another is named Raya Drebin, and she's on the Massachusetts Court of Appeals, which is the same intermediate Court of Appeals as I've been on for the past 15 years.
Terrific. When you were at Harvard Law School, was there a ladies' day, or is that an apocryphal story?
No, it's true, except that I was in a section where that didn't happen. There were professors who had what they call ladies' day, and they embarrassed and only called on women, but that did not happen to me. I had a very difficult last name to pronounce, so once a professor learned how to say Loiacono, it was not safe for me to enter the classroom. But it wasn't a question of ladies' day. I think it was a question of the professor thinking, look, I've mastered this terribly difficult name, and I'm going to keep using it.
So you were called on in class, like
yes,
everyone else?
particularly by Professor Louis Loss, who loved to say Loiacono.
And what did Louis Loss teach?
Corporations and securities law.
And he was the former head of the Securities and
Yes,
Exchange Commission.
yes.
Did you get to know Professor Loss?
Yes, I did know him pretty well. In fact, years and years after graduation, I was attending a dinner party at the home of another professor, Clark Buys, and Louis Loss was a dinner guest. And the minute he came into the room, he said, "Well, Miss Loiacono," and I thought, oh God, he's going to call on me.
How many years later was this?
About 10, 15 years later.
Well, you've named some of the great names: Griswold, Bice, Loss. You say they were all supportive of women at the law school.
I thought they were. And there was another professor named Sutherland and another named McGuire. And as you probably know, because you also were at Harvard Law School, in your third year you have to do one kind of a long paper. and mine was in taxation, and I had Professor McGuire, who was not known as being particularly kindly toward women, but he was lovely to me, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. He taught evidence.
Mm-hmm. Were you involved in any activities at the law school?
Moot court in something called Phillips Brooks House.
First, tell us about moot court.
Okay, I thought that was fun to do. I lasted through a couple of the rounds, as I recall it.
So you had a partner and you're arguing against other people with a made-up case in front, but you pretend like you're in a real appellate courtroom.
Yes, yes. It was appellate court work, and everyone always said it was easier to argue a case in front of the U.S. Supreme Court after you got out of law school than it would be to argue a drunken driving case in a circuit court someplace.
Right. And when you were doing moot court, did you ever think about being a judge?
No.
This hadn't crossed your mind yet?
No, no.
When you were in law school, what did you think you were going to be doing afterwards?
I thought I'd be doing private practice, and that's what I did do.
Did you always know you'd come back to Connecticut?
At the time, no, because I think in the era in which I was in law school, small town USA was not the place to be. Everyone thought that where you should be was Wall Street or with a big New York firm. So it was my goal to be with a New York firm, and I did not, when I first graduated from law school, even think about going back to practice law in New London.
And when you say everybody thought you should be, you mean...
Not I in particular.
Not you, but all the students wanted to go to Wall Street?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And so why didn't you go to Wall Street?
I did.
Oh, you did? Tell us about that.
I did. When I first got out of law school, my very first job, well, by then I was married and had a baby.
Whoa.
Wait, let's back up here.
Let's back up.
Yes. I got married 2 days after graduation from law school. And my then husband had 2 more years to go to finish law school. I had known him at Brown.
And what was his name?
Ralph Dupont. And he had gone into, he was a member of the ROTC, and so he went into the Navy for 2 years. The Korean conflict had broken out. And so he got 2 years in back of me because he spent 2 years in the Navy. And so when we got married, he still had 2 more years to finish. So I had to be in the Boston area, obviously. And this was before the days of Title VII, so it was okay to just say, I discriminate against you because you're a woman, we don't want women here. And
who said that to you?
Oh, many, many firms in the Boston area. In fact, in looking for a job in the Boston area, the Harvard Law School Placement Office would set up interviews for me. And I went to several, and I had one man say to me, you are married, yes, and you're Catholic, yes. Well, we know that, you know, Catholics breed like rabbits, and we just don't want anyone. We don't want women anyway, but not especially, we don't want married Catholic women.
How did you react when he said that?
I just, as I recall it, I got up and left. It just ended the interview.
And at that time,
it was legal.
Did you tell anyone at Harvard about it? Would
Yes.
they have cared? Oh, tell us about that.
Yes, I did tell people at the placement office. What they did about it, I don't know. I didn't do anything about it. In fact, there was nothing to do about it. In those days, as I understand it, you had a perfect right to say, I don't want to hire you because you are a woman.
So you had no legal recourse. What did you personally do?
Kept looking for a job.
Right.
And eventually, I found a job through the placement office as co-counsel to President Eisenhower's commission on the application of federal law to the Virgin Islands, which was really great because the other counsel was a professor at Boston College Law School, and we had an office at Harvard. So it was an ideal job for me.
And that was in Boston because
In
the Virgin
Cambridge.
Islands are part of the First Circuit, which is
Yes.
located in Boston.
Correct.
Did you get to visit the Virgin
No, I
Islands?
didn't. But during the course of this job, then I got pregnant. Then the professor who was supposed to have given the final report to the commission, who had flown in from all over the country and to meet at Harvard Law School, for some reason he could not come, and so I had to go and do it. And I remember being in the faculty room at the law school around this great table, being very pregnant, and all these men listening to this report by a very pregnant lady, and they listened politely, but I'm not sure what they were thinking.
Was it a good report?
I thought it was, yeah. I wrote it.
What finally, what was the result of the report? Did it have?
I don't know if it had any, whether they just filed it away someplace, I suppose.
And was that a one-year job or a two-year?
No, it was I guess about a year and a half kind of a job, right. And then we went to Wall Street in New York.
And where did your husband go? And where
We
did you
both
go?
went to the same firm,
Which was?
Davies, Hardy and Skank. It was at 1 Wall Street. Basically, it had two clients, IBM and Woolworth. And I think I talked him into it. One of the senior partners, his name was Edgar Guest, into letting me work 2 days a week, because by then I had the baby.
And this baby was a boy or a girl?
It was a little girl named Ellen.
And when was she born?
She was born in 1955 in Cambridge.
You moved to New York City with a baby, and you're both going to work.
Yes.
First, where did you live in New York City?
Staten Island, which was a ferry ride away. And I worked 2 days a week, and this particular partner just did work for Woolworth. And so it was very boring work, but it had to do with drafting Woolworth leases.
Were you an associate at the firm?
Well, I'm not sure that I could exactly give myself a title of associate, because I only worked for this one partner. And it was only Woolworth leases. And it was 2 days a week.
Were there other women working at the firm as
One
lawyers?
other, but she wasn't a partner, and she had been there for about 20 years. And she told me she would never be a partner, and as far as I know, she never was.
And that was their choice, not her choice?
I think she wanted to be a partner, yes.
Your husband worked there full-time?
Yes.
And were you paid commensurately with the other young lawyers?
No.
2/5 of whatever they were getting? Or did,
I don't really know if it was 2/5 or not. It was by the day. Terrible to tell you, but I never figured out whether I got the same pay or not. I was so thrilled to work.
were there many women on Wall Street at this time?
No. No. I can remember going for lunch, and we very often would lunch with classmates we had known in law school. There were no other women that I remember seeing, that I knew anyway.
Who was taking care of the baby the 2 days that you were at work?
I had a babysitter who I found, she was very nice. Her name was Mrs. Meehan. I can remember that to this day.
And how long were you at the Wall Street firm?
For about a year, and then we decided to go to New London, where of course my family lived,
And where was his family from?
in Fall River, Massachusetts. I have to say that he wanted to go to New London, and I guess I'm the kind of person, once I get settled in someplace and it looks okay, that I just as soon stay right there. But he was more adventurous and wanted to have a change. He didn't like working on Wall Street, and so I wasn't adverse to New London, which I love, and I was happy to be with my family, so it was fine. We went back.
And what, who in your family was still in New London at this
My
time?
mother and my father and my brothers and my aunts and uncles, and
They had all stayed.
they had all stayed, yes.
What did your brothers
My
do?
brothers are both pharmacists. And let's see, by this time, my father owned 4 drugstores, and my brothers worked in them. And
Joined the family business.
yes, yes.
What did you and Mr. Dupont do in New London? Where did you go to work?
We went to work with a man named Belton Kopp, C-O-P-P, and yes, we worked there several years, and then went with a firm called Sussman, Shapiro & Wool.
And both of you were practicing law
Yes.
during this time?
Yes,
Did you have any more children?
yes, I had 2 more.
When were they born?
That one was born in 1957 and another in 61.
And that's when you were in New London.
Yes, they were both born in New London.
And you practiced law this whole time?
Yes,
How
I had a babysitter and a very supportive family. I had my brother, one of them then was, when I was practicing law, was in high school. We being my husband and I, had only 1 car. And so he had the car. And my brother's job was, he had a car of his own, that when he got out of high school at 3 in the afternoon, he was to come and pick me up and bring me home, so that I had a lot of help. And I had babysitters,
what are the names of the younger 2 children?
Antoinette and William.
And I guess we could move ahead here a little bit. Where are Antonia and William and
Ellen.
now?
Okay, Ellen works for a British publisher, and she lives in London, and she has a son who's 17 years old, who was born in London, and she's lived in London for the past 22 years. She's about to remarry this summer a British man, so I think it's likely she's going to stay in
Right.
England. My second daughter is the editor-in-chief of Modern Bride magazine, and she has published 10 books. And my son is the architect for the National Trust for Historic Preservation in Washington.
That's terrific.
And he's married to a lawyer.
I was wondering, nobody in your family business?
No. I guess they had their fill of it.
What kind of law did you practice in New London?
It was a pretty general practice, but it was basically plaintiff's litigation. A smattering of everything. If you've practiced law in a small town, that's usually the way it is.
How many people were in the firm?
Originally, the 2 of us, after we left Belton Kopp and after we left Sussman, Shapiro & Wool, which incidentally was a firm I had worked for when I was in law school.
During the summer?
Summers, yeah. Summers between first and second year and second and third year. I worked for them.
And they were pleased to get you back?
Yes, they were happy, yes.
When did you and your husband start your own firm?
That was around, I would say 1963, thereabouts.
How was it working with your husband as your law partner as
Oh,
well as your marriage partner?
actually, during the day, since you're both working on your own cases and your own thing, there wasn't that much contact. I saw him more at home than in the office. Yeah. And then eventually the firm grew to about six, 7 lawyers.
Did you enjoy private practice?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
And when were you involved in other activities in
Yes.
the area?
It's very hard in a small town not to be. And in a town the size of New London, which is about 28,000 people, it has a feeling of community and neighborliness, and so you are always involved in activities. I
Is this when you ran for the office?
Yes, I ran for office.
Tell us about that.
That was fun to run for the Board of Education, and I wanted to be the top vote getter. There were 14 of us running, and they chose 7, and 7 on each ticket, the Democrats and the Republicans. And
were you a Democrat or a
yes,
Republican?
a Democrat. And then I was the top vote getter. But I had this army of brothers and fathers and uncles and aunts who helped me.
Were your children in the school system at this time?
Yes, they were.
And how many terms did you serve?
1.
top vote getter, and then
Then off into the sunset.
you had conquered that mountain.
Yes.
Another mountain.
Yes, I was gone.
Were there other activities besides the Board of Education?
Yes, I belonged to the League of Women Voters. I belonged to the American Association of University Women. I belonged to something called Legacy, which was legal aid for those who couldn't afford it.
What was the situation in Connecticut, I guess this is the early 60s,
Yeah,
with respect to provision of legal services for the poor?
weren't many, but there was something called Legacy, which had to do with providing services for those who couldn't afford it. Might have been some kind of forerunner to what we now would call public defenders.
So it was criminal.
But it was also civil jurisdiction, so it wasn't just criminal.
Did you ever practice any criminal law?
Very little. Very little criminal law. Very little domestic relations and very little criminal law.
So how long did the firm Dupont and Dupont exist?
Well, pretty much until I became a judge.
You became a judge in what year?
1977.
And to what court were you initially appointed?
The Court of Common Pleas. But at the time, the legislation providing for the merger had already occurred.
There's the merger of...
Merger of Court of Common Pleas into Superior Court so that there would be just one court, one trial level court.
And that merger occurred in 78.
Yes.
So you
But I knew that in 77, that if I took the appointment to the Court of Common Pleas, that it would very soon be the Superior Court.
Who appointed you?
Ella Grasso.
She was the governor.
She was, yes.
And what year did she appoint you?
1977.
And when did she die?
I think maybe around 79.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
A couple of years later. Did you know Ella Grasso?
Not well, no. I think that she was looking for someone from southeastern Connecticut to appoint to the court, and almost by default I would get it because there wasn't any other woman. She wanted a woman, and originally she asked me to be a workers' comp commissioner.
As a comp commissioner?
Yes.
What's that?
The workers' comp commissioner is the state is divided into, I think there are 6 of them, and they deal with workers' compensation claims. And I thought about it and then called her up and told her that I wouldn't do it.
Good move.
And she told me, in no uncertain terms, that she was very annoyed, and that if I thought she was ever going to appoint me a judge, she never would. And I said that she was the governor because she could do what she wanted, but I just couldn't be a workers' compensation commissioner.
What year was that?
It was shortly before she did appoint me as a judge. So it was 1977 as well.
Really?
What
changed her mind?
I really don't know what changed her mind, because she was really mad, and told me that she wanted to be the first governor to appoint a female workers' comp commissioner in New England. And like I say, I told her I couldn't do it.
Did she find another woman to appoint?
No, she didn't in the end. She appointed a man. There were no other women in eastern Connecticut practicing law. So I would get it by default. It wasn't that I was so great. There wasn't another woman.
Were you involved in Democratic politics beyond the running for the Board of Education?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I was a worker, but I wasn't any kind of force. I wouldn't call myself. Anyhow.
So tell us about the conversation when she called you up and said she was going to appoint you a judge after all.
She didn't. She had somebody else call me, Jay Jackson, who was her counsel. And this is embarrassing to say, but in those days I had never heard of Jay Jackson. And I can recall coming home back to the office from court, and a secretary saying to me, "Here are your messages." And I saw a message from somebody named Jay Jackson in Hartford calling, and I assumed he was trying to sell me insurance. And so I did not call him back. And then luckily for me, he called me again and said that he was counsel for the governor and he was calling on her behalf to see if I wanted to be a judge.
What was your response and your reaction?
Yes, I would, but I was very surprised. So I never found out what caused her change of heart.
You never had a conversation with the governor?
No, I never had a conversation with her.
Were there other women appointed at this time by Governor Grasso? Or had she appointed women previously?
Oh, yes, because she must have appointed Judge Wennerman to the juvenile court. And no, I think Judge Kulowitz was appointed by Governor Meskel. And then shortly after, she appointed, of course, Ellen Peters to the Supreme Court.
That would have been several years later.
Not too long later, maybe a couple of years.
So you were on the Connecticut Superior Court. Tell us what the Connecticut Superior Court does.
Okay, it's a court of general jurisdiction. It has both civil and criminal jurisdiction. I had a smattering of all kinds of assignments. In those days, you sat in one place for 3 months and then switched to another place. I asked not to sit in New London because I didn't want my own views of lawyers to get in the way of being a good judge. And so I was always assigned to courthouses in New Haven, Hartford, Middletown, New Britain, Bristol.
And every 3 months you changed courthouses?
Right, yes.
How old were your children?
Then?
Then.
Oh, well.
And
Well, by then they were in college, out of college, and my son was in high school. So only one was living at home.
did you enjoy the Superior Court work?
Yes, I liked it a lot.
What part of it did you like best?
Well, there's an excitement about trials that is a very different kind of thing than appellate work. There's not only the excitement about the trial itself, but the necessity for being very quick with rulings, and you don't have the time to deliberate as you do on an appellate court. I liked trial work when I was a lawyer, and I liked it when I was a judge. And I was fortunate, too, when I was on the trial bench in being given, after a time, some very good assignments. I sat on criminal cases in New Haven, murder cases at a time when there weren't that many murder cases. And
Who made those assignments? Who decided that you would get to?
John Speziale, who was then the Chief Justice, along with Maurice Sponzo, who was the Chief Court Administrator. And they gave me some great assignments.
And they had discretion as to who would get these assignments?
Yes, yeah, they did.
Now, you had not done criminal work before you were on the bench?
No, I never had.
Was it easy to learn?
Well, a trial is a trial, yeah. The rules of evidence are pretty much the same.
Let me ask you about juries. You had done jury trials as a practitioner.
Yes.
First of all, how did the juries react to you, particularly as a woman? Did you notice a difference between their reaction to you and
I mean, when I was a judge or as a lawyer?
As a lawyer first.
As a lawyer first. Yeah, I think that you could tell that there were differences. And I think when you're trying a case, lawyers tend to choose a jury case. You tend to hone in on someone on the jury that you think is especially listening to your message.
Did you find such people?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes there were men, sometimes there were women that you could kind of address yourself to.
And then you became the judge, and what was your relation to the jury then?
I think juries are wonderful in the sense that they listen to every word that the judge has to say, and they're usually extremely anxious to do a wonderful job, to do the best they can, and they do.
You must have been a good judge to appear before.
Oh,
with that. I've been reading various histories of women in the law, not particularly about Connecticut, and some of them recount in detail stories that women attorneys were treated sexistly by the judge. It's hard to imagine anyone calling you honey.
No, no one called me honey, but...
Tell us how the other attorneys and the judges treated you.
I don't think I had any difficulty with the lawyers, with other lawyers, basically. That was, once they got used to that, once they got used to the curiosity of it all, because there weren't any other women practicing law in New London County. Once they got over that hurdle, they were fine. I didn't have any problem. With judges, yeah, I did on occasion have some funny, not so funny at the time, experiences. I'll tell you one of them. I was in the New London courthouse one day. We'd been called there in order to see if we could settle some cases. And the lawyers would stay outside of the chambers. And while you were hanging around, you tended to discuss the case. So anyway, I had this really dog of a case. I represented a plaintiff, and the case had very, very little value. And if we could settle it for a couple of $1,000s, it would be wonderful. And so while I was standing talking in the line, the lawyer on the other side started talking to me about the case, and he indicated that he would pay $6,000, which was like wonderful. So I said, let's go in and tell the judge we have a settlement and go put it on the record if he'll come out on the bench, and he can enter a judgment and we'll be done with it. Because I was fearful that if he went back to his office, they'd say, you crazy, don't you dare settle that case for $6,000. Anyway, we interrupted the judge in between his the next case he was going to listen to, and he said yes, he'd come out on the bench and he would enter judgment. And so called a court reporter, and the judge came out on the bench, and we both went there, and the judge said, I understand you've reached a settlement and you want to enter judgment in accordance with this. And I said yes. And he said, just a minute, approach the bench. So both of you. So we both went up, and he said to me, he said, you know, if you want a continuance, I'll be happy to give one to you so you can call your husband and see if it's okay to settle the case. And so I said, oh, well, thank you very much, Your Honor, but my husband doesn't know about this case. He's never worked on it. And it's very nice of you to want to give me this opportunity, but it's okay. Let's just enter the judgment. Because I was terrified that if there were ever a continuance, the lawyer on the other side would call his firm.
He should be calling his husband.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever.
And so this same judge, as it turned out, later had to work for me when I was a judge. And we never mentioned this episode. This same judge also, another day, when we were having pre-argument settlement conferencing kind of, and all the lawyers were lined up outside his door. They'd go in one at a time or two at a time, and one at a time, because he was talking to each of us separately, and shut the door. So when it was my turn, I went in and shut the door, and he said, open that door. I said, oh, all right, I guess it's hot. He said, it's not that it's hot. You think I want to be alone in this room with you? And I was just, I didn't know what to say to him. It was so crazy.
And what do you think he was worried about?
I don't know, that I was some sort of a femme fatale and I was going to attack him. I don't know what he thought, but it was extraordinary. I began to think he was a little odd. And like I say, later on, when I was the presiding judge in a courthouse in Hartford, and he was one of the members of the team, well, he and I never talked about this.
Well, maybe during our break, we can talk about who that was. And
no, we
whether
won't.
we want to have it on the record. Before we get to you being chief judge, which I know you served for some time, during the 1960s and 70s, you're out there practicing law, You start out being one of the first women. There were a lot of changes going on in society then. Civil rights movement, the women's movement. Could you give us some sense of how that affected you and how it looked from the perspective of Connecticut, of New London, what these changes that were going on?
Yeah, I think it helped women lawyers. It helped all women. You know, and it's nice to think that, oh, I'm really great, I did this. I didn't. I had all this help from all these other women who did great things.
And who were the other women you're referring to?
Well, for example, even a book like The Feminine Mystique, a Betty Friedan kind of book, got people talking. It got people to think. Are women treated equally? Sometimes you don't even know that you're being insulted. Now that I'm thinking about this, I said previously that when I was in law school, I had a job in a law firm during the summer. And when I came back in the fall, one of my male classmates said to me, I understand you had a job in a law firm this summer. I said, yeah, I did. And he said, oh, I didn't know you could take shorthand. And
did he have a smile on his face? Or was
no, at the time, I didn't take it as an insult. I didn't even realize it. I thought he genuinely maybe thought that's how people got jobs. I don't know. So sometimes you don't even know you're being insulted.
You mentioned that at law school you had this, what you called your study group, this group of women students. Did you all discuss these problems, or was that an important support group to have? What role did it play?
Well, I think it was a very important group to have because you could laugh at what was going on. We thought it was kind of funny and laughed about it, that there was one bathroom for women miles away. Well, it was in Austin Hall. A long ways away if you had 10 minutes between classes to get back again to Langdale North.
That was still an issue back when I got there in the early 70s. Did you all go to the dean or anybody to try to get another bathroom put in?
No, we didn't. That's what's strange. And when you were talking about how the climate changed, at this time, I don't even think we realized that it would make any difference if we complained. No one even thought about complaining. We just laughed about the fact that's the way it was. And they had, when we first went to law school, in your first year, you had a mass physical. Now, I don't know if they did this when you were there. And you lined up in Austin, this big long line of students, and they weighed everyone and yelled out. Well, in those days, I didn't care because they say 100 pounds. But I had a friend who was on the heavy side, and they yelled out 160 pounds, and it's really demeaning, but all we could do was laugh. And then they wanted urine samples, but all they had were male urinals, and we had to march through this long line of people carrying a urinal. It was really bad.
Oh my! And where? So did they send you someplace?
They sent us to the ladies' room, which was, as you know, in the bottom of Austin there.
Basement.
But to get the sample. But we became hysterical about laughing about it because they weren't cups. They were male urinals to put the urine in. and then we had to bring it back. Yeah, it was bizarre.
So how did you women do this, and at least 10 of you succeed so well? What personal characteristics account for this?
No, I think a good sense of humor.
Really?
Yeah, and a desire to be there. And because most people were nice.
Had you been a trailblazer? I'm going backwards a little bit here. Had you been a trailblazer in college or in high school? Had you thought of yourself that way?
No, but my mother would have told her I was a troublemaker. in the sense of, I don't know, she told me that when I was little, she'd say, you should wash your face with ivory soap because it's 99 and 9/10% pure. And I would say, pure what? And so she said that I had
You're a lawyer.
a very bad habit of asking questions. I don't know, I was president of my senior class. I don't know. I always had.
In high school?
In high school, yeah. Yeah.
So you had leadership qualities.
I don't know about that, but I thought it was fun to be doing things.
But there were probably women at the time without the strength of character or the ready sense of humor who couldn't have made it at Harvard Law School in 1951.
I think a lot of people could. I think the sad part of the women's movement is it came too late for some people. I went to high school with many very, very bright people whose parents never thought that they should go to college and who never did, and whose abilities were wasted in a sense. I just happened to be lucky to be born into a family that assumed I would go to college, that had the money to send me to college, so that I never had to worry about where would I find the money with which to go. And I had a lot of classmates from high school that I see to this day, who still live in New London, who should have gone. But the women's movement came too late for them.
Your daughters obviously have gone on to achieve a lot.
Yes.
Tell us.
Yeah, my greatest accomplishment, my children.
Well, my last question to you is going to be, what's your greatest accomplishment?
You got it.
But I suspected from hearing you before. Tell us how you brought up your children with respect to these issues of equality and issues of self-determination. Did you try to direct them? Did you leave it to them to decide what to do? Or how did you handle that?
I suppose a combination of leaving things to them, but you can't leave everything to children who are children. So that I think they had lots of guidelines, as well as freedom to do what they thought was good. Education was always important. I think growing up in a family where both parents were lawyers, that they heard so much about it, that may have driven them to creative fields instead. I can remember, because we did a lot of plaintiff's work, the little boy next door took my daughter's tricycle, and he was riding off on it, and she wanted to say something bad about him, and so call him a name, and she said, you defendant, you. So I figured that she probably was getting too heavy a dose of law.
Great.
And they knew about attractive nuisances and so forth when they were very little, and they were always conscious of lawsuits and be law-abiding. I'd go to pick them up at school, and they were told never to walk on the grass coming out of the school. And coming out of this grade school, hundreds of little kids were marching across the grass, and there'd be two little girls walking on the sidewalk, and they were mine, because they were told you had to obey the rules. So I don't know, maybe you'd have to ask them as to how it affected them.
Your legal career and that of your husband affected your children, and did your children affect your legal career?
Of course.
And tell us that.
Yes, yes. I think that children are a quantity and add a quality to your life that almost a man can't appreciate. It's usually the woman who's settling the squabbles between children. I think it makes women especially good at mediating disputes. And I think that having children helps in being a judge. I think it makes you open to new ideas. I think it makes you look at things in a different way. How did the child look at this? And when you're a judge, how did this other person do what he did? Why did he do it? Can you think up hypotheticals? To me, having children and bringing them up is one of the most valuable parts of my life.
And it sounds like a most valuable part of your training as a judge, to be a judge. We will continue this conversation after we take a break.
Okay.
I hope I was supposed to do that. I got some.